Me and Derek have been talking about this. Me and Derek have done videos on some of these Egyptian texts and how they depict Osiris, and it's people who aren't experts at all. We're just two guys just reading some text and making our own opinions. And I'm like, this sounds so much like Jesus. I mean, you have the in the one text. I can't cite it right now, but it's you might know what I'm talking about. There's this. It's in the Egyptian Book of the Dead collection, and it's like, those who offer the cakes in my name and drink the wine in my name shall forever have eternal life. I'm like, that sounds like a Eucharist. And then there's just so much resurrection, dying, rebirth. A lot of these tropes that we're seeing. And I'm just gonna start it off like this, because there's a Bible scholar who I love, Bart Ehrman. I love the guy. But I was talking to him about this dying and rising God thing. He just seems to shut it down completely. And he said that there's no dying and rising gods that have a bodily resurrection. And he said the Egyptians weren't hoping for a bodily resurrection; they're hoping for another realm. And then I said to him, "Well, then why did they wrap their dead as mummies?" And I'm not kidding. He just looked at me and said, "You're gonna have to ask an Egyptologist that." So I just like, you know what? Good idea. That's what I'm gonna do. So here we are now. That's the first thing I want to ask you about is, what is he wrong? And I'm not talking crap or anything. I love Bart Ehrman, but like, he's obvious. Like, I just doesn't seem like he sees what I see. Maybe I don't know. But here's the expert, so let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you got an Egyptologist on, so we're
Yeah,
good.
we're good.
This idea of a bodily resurrection, you're exactly right, and I think the comparison is very apt between Jesus and Osiris. And it's also not just a bodily resurrection; it's it's a seasonal, yearly resurrection. It goes with the cycles of the seasons. Egyptian seasons are a little different from Levantine seasons, where Jesus was sacrificed and reborn, but they're still seasonal. You still have a spring, a winter, kind of a, an emerging, or a fall. You still have these things. It's just based on the inundation. But I was just talking to somebody about this. They're like, "Well, what does it mean that you have this this bodily, mummified bodily recreation? But do they really believe that they need all this physicality? Does it really work that way?" And I would say it's a little complicated. It's first of all, the bodily resurrection is something only 5% of ancient Egyptians got to do. So this was a rich person's game, if
Oh,
you like.
interesting.
Mummification, like, how many people do you know who know how to mummify a body? We all have some embalmer friends out there. I mean, I do. I don't know if you do, but there are people who know how to embalm bodies. It's a skill. It's not super hard. It's not magical. It's if you have the right chemicals, the right materials, the right time, then you can preserve a body. Taxidermy is associated with this too, but it takes time, and it's not something that just happens. I also don't want to present the ancient Egyptians as being simple minded or primitive, in that they believe that if you didn't have the body, you just cease to exist. I think that's too much. So I think the resurrection of the body for Osiris is very much like Jesus, in that you need the resurrection to create the miracle in people's eyes. It needs to be seen as such, kind of like when Jesus appears to his apostles, and they're like, Thomas is like, "I don't believe until I see it and touch it, and then I'll believe it." And then Jesus comes and he's like, "See it and touch it." And then all of a sudden it's real to him. Now, Jesus doesn't hang out and stay around the body, the production of the body. It's like you have to produce a body, right? Like like a murder
Yeah.
mystery, but you're producing a living body. But the production of the body, the resurrection of it, is as a miracle proof, if you like. And I would even compare Osiris's rebirth to um I grew up Roman Catholic, and when you see how saints are made and what some
Yeah.
of the parameters are, like, if we could Google right now, how do you become a saint? Number one, you have to have an incorruptible body. And they open your tomb up and they look at that shit and they're like, "Oh, look, she looks beautiful," or whatever it is. Her face and skin is all preserved. And if you have that, then that's proof number one that you are of the gods. You are divine, you are special, you are not corruptible and human. And Osiris and Jesus are both very much like that. So whether both of them need their bodies over the long term, I mean, in a sense, it's just a yearly thing. They have to keep coming back. And I think the physicality of it is important in both cases because both are seasonal, both are the spring, both are the new life, both are the plants that we eat and the bread and wine, the bread that we eat, the wine that we drink, and Osiris is no different. So I would put it on in that vein. And I would also say that for those people who might be upset, oh, how dare you say that Jesus comes from Osiris? I'll say that we're all working with the same matter of this earth. We're all working with the same seasonality. Some may be in the southern hemisphere versus the northern hemisphere, but we all got seasons unless we're at the equator. And we all have the same basic chemical structures, carbon-based life forms, and all this stuff. There's only so much difference that's going to happen. And so to have people develop similar religious belief systems based on a seasonal agricultural reality, I don't think is that crazy. What's
Yeah.
interesting about this one is that I think because of how close in space and time these two things are connected to, how close in space and time these creation mythologies actually are, I think you can make direct connections and say, oh yes, Osiris influenced the Jesus mythology directly, and I would stand by that.